Hey guys, what's up? It's my Uncle Zunky, and welcome to the next episode in the Washington Wizards season. This time we're going up against the Houston Rockets, and unfortunately we are going up against an undermanned Houston Rockets team. Dwight Howard is hurt and completely out of the lineup. He didn't play at all in this game, so Joey Dorsey is going to take his backup spot in center. And if you didn't know already, Joey Dorsey isn't exactly the rim protector and defensive whiz that Dwight Howard is, so it was a little bit easier to score against him than it would have been against D12. But let's get into this. This game is in Houston, and also John Wall is back from injury. He was only out about a couple weeks or so, but I simulated most of the games that he was out just because it's not nearly as fun playing without your best player, and it's a lot more difficult to win as well. Unfortunately, John Wall is still hampered a little bit as he just dunks it, trying to immediately say, no, I'm fine, but he is hampered a little bit, so his overall rating was down a slight amount. I think it was down from an 86 to an 82 or something like that, but he was healthy enough to play a full 35 minutes or whatever he plays. As James Harden dunks on the other end as well, as he can get down the floor and slam it. And so it was kind of the James Harden versus John Wall show. And also Marcin Gortat had a really big coming out game. He impressed me a lot. He had his first really good scoring output of the season. He had always been a very good rebounder and at least solid on the defensive end, but he really was not very much help on the offensive end, at least until this game, as Joey Dorsey gets the rebound and puts it back in. Joey Dorsey also had a really good game. I was surprised because I think he's a fairly low 70s-ish player and not really someone who's going to be seeing a lot of minutes in real life. But there's Trevor Ariza, who was on the Rockets at the beginning of the season, but we traded Paul Pierce as well as Professor Andre Miller for him, and dangerous pass gets in there to Marcin Gortat, and he spins and has a little flip shot, hook shot, something like that in the lane, gets it to go. And I was very glad with that trade. Paul Pierce was just killing our team with some terrible offense. He was kind of being a bricklayer, and he continued to show that in this game. Paul Pierce was also very ineffective for the Rockets, so I was glad to see it's not just me as we're pushing the ball in transition. Wall and Beal are just deadly in transition, and Trevor Ariza, now we have a much more athletic small forward who can run the break as well, and he's trying to get back at his former team for trading him, even though technically it was me who pulled the trigger on that trade and not them. But there we go, John Wall again just cutting down the lane, and Patrick Beverley, who is the point guard for the Houston Rockets, is supposed to be one of the better defending point guards in the NBA. That was not really the case this game. He had a very difficult time D'ing up John Wall, as well as Bradley Beal had a very difficult time D'ing up James Harden. But they were just too good offensively, and Bradley Beal gets into the lane. Professor Andre Miller guarding him, and he is at the point in his lifespan where he can't really D up much of anyone. So we have the bench mob in the game now, or at least part of it, Vince Carter, as well as Jordan Crawford spearheading the bench mob, and Vince Carter was pretty impressive off the bench. He had a couple games where he had some DNPs. Didn't play because I was just testing out some different lineups and such, but because of injuries to Kevin Seraphin and I believe Otto Porter, even though Otto Porter wasn't in the rotation either, he got a little bit of playing time. So Vince Carter was very impressive off the bench, and he took most of the minutes that Garrett Temple had been getting and did a good job with them, because Garrett Temple struggled a little bit in this game. So I just said, you know, screw it, we're going to go with Vince Carter, go with the hot hand here, pass it down low to, I believe that's Terrence Jones, who finishes. The Rockets had a decent inside presence, even though Terrence Jones and Joey Dorsey aren't exactly the best of players. They did some work as Vince Carter trying to post up Andre Miller and just turns around and gets the roll there. I think that was just a height advantage. He's 6'6", Andre Miller is like 6'1" or something like that. And the Rockets had some Greek guy. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. It's like Papalinkito or something like that, but he was a really good shooter for a big man. He's like 6'8", 6'9", something like that, and he has a very good outside shot. So that was difficult to defend, and he got some buckets on me. And Jason Terry is in the game now for the Rockets. I personally had no idea that the Rockets had signed him in the offseason, and I really hope that they didn't trade for him in this MyGm series, because why would you want Jason Terry at his advanced age? He's not exactly a very effective player anymore. Speaking of not very effective players, Paul Pierce is back on the floor now and trying to make some things happen. He had a couple buckets on me, but he had, I believe, even more failures than buckets. But Isaiah Cannon didn't get much playing time in this game, but he was very effective when he did. He is an excellent shooter. He's very small. He's an incredibly short point guard, one of those sub 6 feet guys. Jordan Crawford is not sub 6 feet, and he was able just to do work on Isaiah Cannon. Wasn't really able to D him up. And this time we had John Wall and Jordan Crawford playing in the game at the same time. So we had a 2-point guard lineup, and they were rolling with Jason Terry, who height-wise pretty much is a point guard. as well as Isaiah Cannon. So very, very small, minuscule backcourt for the Rockets, but Isaiah Cannon was able to burn me, and Isaiah Cannon handling the ball again. He just backs up to the three-point line and pops it. Back-to-back threes for Isaiah Cannon, and the Rockets have a 6-point lead there. I had to call timeout and rally the troops, but Isaiah Cannon able to hit threes. You know who else is able to hit threes? John Wall. Both point guards just going back and forth as John Wall slips the screen and hits the three. I love that play. It gets John Wall an open three probably like 75% of the time. And even though John Wall isn't one of the better three-point shooters in the NBA, he is solid enough to knock down a wide open three more often than not. He's also solid enough to cut to the rim. He has so much quickness for a guy who's 6'4" and really is a point guard in a shooting guard's body with a point guard's athleticism. And Bradley Beal also has some athleticism as he just slams it, although he was being D'd up by either Jason Terry or Andre Miller there, so that wasn't much of a difficult matchup for him personally. And we do the same slip screen again with John Wall running along the perimeter, and he gets an open three, and we're only down by 4 at this point, but the Rockets have been an offensive powerhouse. They've been a defensive nightmare because they just haven't been able to guard anyone. But if you start two guys that are like under 6 feet tall in your backcourt, you're going to have difficulties guarding people. And Patrick Beverley just could not guard John Wall. John Wall had the best game of this season so far, as well as Marcin Gortat as he slams it in transition. You got to reward the big men for running the break. If they do that, you got to give them the pass and slam it down. And Marcin Gortat was solid in the first half, but it was really more the second half where he broke out and did most of his damage. So we're approaching halftime now in a really close game, and I'm trying to go into halftime with the lead because that's just something I want to do. I want to win the first half as well as the second half, and Bradley Beal is helping out with that a little bit. Excellent release on what I thought was a three. Ended up his foot was on the line, so it did not count. James Harden cutting the rim, gets the pass from the Greek man. I'm just going to call him that because I have no idea how to pronounce his name. A lot of those Greek guys have some very, very long names with a lot of vowels in them, and it makes it a little bit tough, but the Greek dude is falling back, just kind of pulls up at the free throw line with the dude in his face and manages to hit it, and I believe that was Isaiah Cannon there with a terrible pass, and so we're just running in transition, and Vince Carter fades in the lane and manages to hit it with a few seconds left before halftime. We go into halftime with the Rockets with a 2-point lead. We're shooting 62%. And the Rockets are shooting 53, but they have more assists than we do, which is a very rare occurrence, and that's not something that happens a whole lot because I have John Wall, who's, in my opinion, the second best playmaking point guard in the NBA, or maybe the third best, I guess, with a healthy Rajon Rondo this year, but it is very difficult for teams to outpass us, and that's not something I'm really used to happening. But the Rockets are coming into the second half, and they came out of the break firing on all cylinders. Paul Pierce with one of his lone bright spots of the game, hitting a long-range jumper. I really wish he did that for my team, and maybe I wouldn't have traded him, but John Wall slams it on Joey Dorsey, and there's not a whole lot Joey Dorsey can do there. He is not one who manages to get off the floor very high, and John Wall slams it even with the bad ankle or bad knee or whatever he has, and we ran in transition. That's the problem with these Washington Wizards. You got to watch out. We are going to run the break, and we're going to get some of those transition threes with Bradley Beal. That's what I love about Bradley Beal. Probably my favorite thing about him is there's not a whole lot of players in 2K who are willing to run hard in transition, but he is one of them, and he always goes towards that left corner of the three-point line where he is a specialist and can really knock that down. Bradley Beal again, more transition plays, and Bradley Beal slams it over James Harden, although James Harden was kind of not really in the poster there, but he was in the vicinity, so it still counts. Trevor Ariza cutting off the screen, and he hits the long-range jumper, trying to outplay his matchup, you know, because he was traded for Paul Pierce, so I would imagine that in his mind he probably wants to outplay the guy that he was traded for. And John Wall, again, just going in transition and slamming it. No one can D him up. He's a nightmare in transition and just an absolute joy to watch. And one thing I tried to emphasize a lot in this game was scoring with John Wall, because typically what I do is if his jumper isn't falling, I will drive to the rim with him, and then if he starts to miss a couple shots or if the defense starts to adjust and close his path to the rim down, I will just move on to other options. And I was really trying to push it with John Wall, and he shot a ridiculous percentage in this game. So it was just very, very efficient for him as we get the pass down to, I believe, DeJuan Blair. Finishes with reverse lay-in. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time. He might fall out of the rotation because he's just kind of short. He's like a 6'7" power forward. And even though he's okay offensively, you do struggle a little bit on the defensive end with him just because of his height. So Drew Gooden might become our backup power forward for the rest of the season, but that remains to be seen. I kind of like DeJuan Blair. He's a really good energy player and makes a nice pass there to Bradley Beal. for the dunk, which is just beautiful basketball. So Bradley Beal again pushing it in transition. And we pass it down to Dwan Blair again, who tries to finish, but Marcin Gortat collects the rebound and puts it back up. And Marcin Gortat is starting to warm up. As you will soon see, Marcin Gortat just goes off in the fourth quarter. James Harden hits the corner three to tie the game, and even James Harden is running in transition. And that is a scary thing when the Rockets run in transition, because they are the most three-happy team in the NBA. As Jordan Crawford is also three-happy as he just pulls up. He had an off night. He struggled a lot from the field, but he does manage to hit that one. The Rockets this year have been trying to emphasize, in real life at least, a lot of threes and a lot of lay-ins, and not a whole lot of anything else, because those are the most efficient way to scores, especially if you're shooting the corner threes and if you're getting free throws when you're driving to the rim. And James Harden is one of the best in the NBA at that, as the Greek guy cuts back door and manages to get a reverse lay-in. Still don't know how to pronounce his name, still don't care. He's probably not getting that many minutes in real life, so I doubt it's all that important, as I believe Jason Terry is running the break here, and he just pulls up with a mid-range jumper with the dude right in his face and hits it. So we go into the fourth quarter with the Wizards being up 1 point, and Jordan Crawford just completely disrespects Isaiah Cannon's defense and slams it on several Rockets. That's one thing he can do. He's not the best shooter, but he does have a lot of athleticism for that backup point guard spot. And there's not a whole lot of backup point guards in the NBA who are crazy athletic. There's several starting point guards, but not a whole lot of backups. So Jordan Crawford can really outplay his matchup just in terms of his speed. And John Wall is also definitely outplayed his matchup in terms of speed. Speed kills in the NBA, and John Wall is one of the best at that. And this is where Marcin Gortat's coming out party started. Pass it to him down low in the paint, and with the turnaround hook, and he hits it. That's crazy. I'd never attempted that shot with him before, just because in previous renditions of 2K at least, the hook has never really been a very efficient shot, but the dunk has always been an efficient shot, and Marcin Gortat slams that down. So I was really happy to see Marcin Gortat. We had a Nene coming out party, I believe last episode or a couple episodes ago, and this time it was the Marcin Gortat coming out party. So I'm going to have to use my bigs a little bit more. It's been mostly a backcourt heavy team, because that's where the star power is on this Wizards team, in the backcourt, but the post has, you know, some good players of their own, with Nene trying to show that off, as well as he hits the mid-range jumper with, I believe, Terrence Jones in his face. And yeah, I might have to emphasize that a little bit more. James Harden was just a beautiful cut to the rim, and Patrick Beverley finds him. And we are nearing down later in the fourth quarter, and at this point it's very, very close. But Trevor Ariza hits the three, and I'm trying to pull away at this point, trying to close out the game. We should not be losing to a Rockets team which does not have Dwight Howard, since we have John Wall and Bradley Beal, who should be able to take very, very good advantages. John Wall just finishes with the and one there over Patrick Beverley and manages to hit it. And at this point, John Wall is in the 30s in points, and I'm trying to go for 40 points with him, because that would be a personal high of mine, and I believe a career high as well for John Wall. He's a good scorer, but he's never been like an absolute dynamite scorer, so it's very rare when he goes for those 30-plus point nights. He's usually more worried about getting his teammates involved, but he's not worried about his teammates there on that three-pointer, and he's had 36 at this point. Also, 16 for 20 field goal percentage, which is just crazy. And Trevor Ariza goes for the dunk, and oh, rim checked. That was just hilarious. Seeing Trevor Ariza's reaction after that dunk. What's also hilarious is Joey Dorsey trying to run the break. Nope. That's what happens when big men try to run the break. It does not work out well. That's why you want to outlet pass after every single rebound and push it in transition that way. But Joey Dorsey makes up for his mistake with the lay in there, and Joey Dorsey really also had a very, very good fourth quarter. The two of them, the two centers, Marcin Gortat and Dorsey, as well as he finishes again around the rim with the contact, both just had a solid fourth quarter and really managed to give their respective teams a huge boost out of the center spot. So it was kind of the superstars in the centers, as Terrence Jones finishes as well. He was trying to get in there, although he did not have the best night, although he outplayed Nene, which I guess is important for him. John Wall, I just go in with the lay in there. I'm not really sure why he shot that, because that's not a good shot, but he finishes. John Wall just could not miss during this game. And John Wall again passing it down to Trevor Ariza, who slams it, and that was John Wall's 10th assist on the night, so that is going to give him the double-double. I think that's really important for him to have the points and assists And John Wall again just with a crazy contact layup finishes, and that is his 40th point. So John Wall went for 40 and 10 during this particular game, which is just great numbers by him. One last highlight by Paul Pierce, one of his 2 highlights of the game, and that's pretty much all he did good this game. But I just passed it down court, the weird pass, which goes straight to Nene. I kick it to Trevor Ariza, and no respect for the CPU, just hits the 2. That looked like a 3, I guess his foot was on the line. And that finishes off the night for us as they try another desperation full court pass, which is picked up by me. I thought about shooting it there, but I was like, nah, that's not respectful. So we end up winning the game by 12, 128-116. Pulled away at the very end there thanks to some heroics by John Wall. And James Harden went off for 28. Joey Dorsey had 20 points, but only 7 rebounds at the starting center spot, which is a little weird. Patrick Beverley had 14 and 14, which are some very, very solid numbers for him, and the rest of the Rockets really did not play all that well, and they did not even play 3 of their bench players, a couple of good 3-point shooters on their bench, which was surprising to me. They have Troy Daniels on their bench, which is one of the better 3-point shooters in the NBA. That could have really helped them out, I believe. Trevor Ariza had 17 points against his former team, and Bradley Beal had 18, as well as John Wall had 40 and 10. Marcin Gortat had 21 and 17. Just solid numbers by our starting big man there. So I was really impressed with that, and also the field goal percentage for John Wall. 18 makes and 22 shots. That's about as efficient as you're going to get, 40 points on 22 shots. Going into the team comparison here, our field goal percentage, 64% for the game. That's just ridiculous. That is going to be changed. I have messed with the sliders a little bit, and even though they were missing Dwight Howard, which is really going to hurt them on the defensive end, that's way too high of a field goal percentage and still way too many fouls. That has been changed by next game, and next game should be looking a lot more realistic. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next episode in a few days, and farewell.